Hey all, Scott here from Art of the Genre. It's been a little while, but I am doing one of the requests that I had in my last video, which is for I-1 Dwellers of the Forbidden City. This is a fantastic module. It was created in 1981 after a module that was run at the 1980 Origins convention, and then they kind of tumbled it into this particular adventure. It was written by David Cook, and it's got a lot of contributors. It's got a lot of great artwork in it. I'm going to grab my notes here, and we're going to just kind of give you a rundown of it, of what I thought of it. Harold Johnson, Lawrence Schick, and Steve Winter also were involved in the creation of this module. So you've got a lot of really heavy hitters from that era who are great writers in their own right, who came in to kind of add little tidbits to this adventure. And I think it shows in everything about it. The artwork is done with a cover image by Errol Otis. You know, I love Errol. His work has always been, something kind of iconic in what you see in the very early 79 to 81 modules. I think he defined kind of an era. And although he might not be considered, like the most technical, artist that you will find in the fantasy genre, he is so stylized and so memorable that everyone knows him, and I think anyone in a certain age category takes him as just something that helped define their youth. And there's no difference to this when you look at this cover with the toad grabbing the fighter's arm as he's stabbing it. You've got a little like a gnome, maybe illusionist in the background. He's hammering a couple more big toads or frogs. And it's just a great cover. I think Errol did a great job on it. And he was brought in at the same time as Jim Roslov, who also does a couple great pieces in this. Take a look. Now, Roslov was really kind of the first art director at TSR, although his title was not technically art director. That was kind of what he was brought in for, and he contributed to a lot of different pieces. And this was some of my favorite works of his, if you just pick them out. And then he also, in 1981, is just when Jim Holloway came in. He did the Aboleth in this one, which will be defined by him as well in Monster Manual 2. And also, a couple other pictures in there as well. Take a look at the Aboleth because, you're gonna recognize it. But having said that, about the artwork, I think there's some Harry Quinn in there as well, who did some of his first works. But nevertheless, there's a lot of artwork in this for this particular module. I really enjoy it. I think it defines things really well and gives you a good understanding of what you're going into. But let's just get into the meat of it here. One of the first things that you find out when you're you're going through the DM descriptions or what you're looking for is that one of the recommendations here is to have a druid. Something that you don't find all the time for sure. And if anybody loves playing druids, obviously this is a good module for it. I like druids a lot, so I think it is something to take a look at and definitely have one in the party. You could get away with having a ranger, but a druid would make it awful interesting because the adventure itself is taking place in something called the Forbidden City. But they're talking about a North Kingdom where trade is going into, and then these southern jungles. And inside the southern jungles, which are actually mountainous jungles, not flat jungles, where they have 100 to 200 foot tall trees with a canopy of lichen and ferns and stuff up, drowning out most of the light. There's some great descriptors in here, and then within a rift valley surrounded by bamboo and these trees and these cliffs is the realm of the Forbidden City. As it is a tournament module, it's going to get you into it very quickly. You start out within a village. In that village, the elder or the chief and a shaman are going to tell you where it is, and they're going to send you with some guides to take you to basically where you're going to get into the city. So you're just going to start right there. You could start earlier if you wanted to get into a little bit. They describe some of the stuff of the shaman and how they've placed totem poles that are getting destroyed by the denizens of the city to try to protect against evil spirits. It's cool. There's a lot of really neat little riffs in here that you can play off of. And when you look at totem poles in the jungle that have been destroyed or defaced, it gives you a very kind of Indiana Jones feel. And I like that about the adventure. And you can play that up even more if you're moving from the village, if you want to take them through the jungle a little bit, have them explore. Put on a little jungle sounds, which you can get some easy access to on your phone. Just have like your portable speaker going in it, and just give the feel for the players and as they're moving through with their characters. So that is kind of the setup. The city itself is run by several factions. One of them being, or the main one being, run by the Yuan-Ti. This is one of the first times I think you ran into the Yuan-Ti back in 81, where they were just coming into their own. So they have good descriptors in here for abominations and purebloods and that kind of stuff. And they're running the city for the most part through the use of brutes, which are a cadre of bugbears. So there'll be something that you can put in as well. They're throughout the area. And they give good descriptors of those things as well. There's also something called the Tasloi. I'm not familiar with them, but they do have their stat blocks in here and descriptions. A lot of new monsters in the back, which you can use, and a lot of monsters from the Fiend Folio. But the Tasloi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, are like little critters that you can see done very well by Roslov in some of the earlier images I showed you. And but check this one out. This is where they're riding on giant wasps, which I think is really cool. And they throw javelins at you. You can see them where they're typically up high in the canopies or looking down on characters with some good art. And they can kind of be a foil as well. Then there are the mongrel men, which are very neat ad and can be played up a lot because the mongrel men themselves have a lot of mutations and stuff like that. So you can get away with having one that looks completely human or one that's just completely funky, as most of them are funky, especially when Jim Holloway does them. Nevertheless, and then you've got bullywugs, which are out in the swamps. So you've got several different factions here that you're dealing with. The way that the module is set up, it has a large area pre-city, which is going to be moving through like a natural caverns and stuff, getting your way to the city, and then you will encounter within the city those factions, and they're blocked, and then they have the campaign suggestions afterwards, which you could be looking for something specific, an envoy or something like that. So there's a lot of different options here as the DM to motivate your characters or move them through this adventure and have them doing different things. One of the things that I do when I look at this adventure, or I look to play it, if the characters go into it, I like to create my own building that the characters will inhabit while they're here. Typically, you can get it. You can always get something online, something pre-designed, or you can design it yourself. But give them a base of operations that they can move out from. One of the things that's talked about in this adventure is the mood between the daylight and the evening, or the darkness. Darkness is the realm of the Yuan-Ti and the bugbears, and when things come out. So you've got the ability to fall back to your creche, your little area, your building that you've set up, and defend it during the course of the evenings, and then go out and explore during the day. I think that's the best way to make it last if you're looking for this module to take some time. And you've got the ability to explore different areas, have relationships with, let's say, the mongrel men, or anything else. The mongrel men are really neat. They have somebody called, I'm going to get this right, Arathia. Check this picture by Holloway out. She is an elf, and her party has been killed, and she's kind of taken up safety here with the mongrel men, even though she's beating on them or doing whatever. And she's setting herself up kind of be the queen of the Forbidden City, but she will be happy to be rescued by the party if you come in, and she will gladly join you. That's neat. The mongrel men have also got a section here that's pretty cool that deals with brawling, where you can get a lot of cheating and things that can be brought into a campaign elsewhere, especially if you're in bar fights or something like that. So take a look at those charts that they've set up. Steve Sullivan also did the map for this. I'm going to show you the city itself. It gives you a lot of opportunities as the DM to go through and make things up. You can see this is a very extensive city. and a lot of it is not going to be defined. So you have the ability to go in and really create a campaign here, block by block, building by building, which is something I suggest if you're looking to add an extended campaign. The character levels are 4 to 7 in this, which is that sweet spot where the characters aren't too tough, but still have enough spells and stuff like that to go through on their own and kind of have a prolonged campaign and have some fun with it, where your wizard isn't just done with his one spell and then you go from there. That's going to be most of it. It's got stuff, like I said, most of the monsters in here are going to be from the Fiend Folio. And the only thing that I have as a cautionary tale is to watch out for the maps. Make sure you know where the maps are in the city and how to get in and where things come in. You're going to need to study that before you go through it, so you kind of have an easier go of letting the characters come within the city and know what they're supposed to be doing. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, I think that's about it on this one. I really, really like it. Like I said, it's done by some of the best writers you're going to find in the early 80s, so it is a huge thumbs up. Thank you for the suggestion for Dwellers. It is a classic adventure starting the I series, and I hope that you've enjoyed this, and please subscribe if you can. And otherwise, that's it for today, and great gaming.